Yeah, so Joseph on LinkedIn is kind of agreeing with you, Perry. He's saying, love the response, Tim Ottinger. I also remember that these type of techniques get more accurate and precise as the project marches closer to the delivery date, which leads me to the question, who and how often should you forecast?
As often as possible.
That's right.
The so we get new information every day about how the team's operating, right? If you're using daily throughput numbers, we've got new information every single day, and we could with one of these tools we can really easily create a new forecast every single day, right? All it is sticking the new number in the throughput spreadsheet. So as often as you reasonably can, as often as you can have a good conversation about what does this forecast mean for what we should do going forward.
And what Perry would say, I'm sorry, Tim, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I don't know that like doing it more is always better. But there's probably some motivation when you want to check again, so it's when you probably, when you feel the need for that confidence boost for one thing, and probably should be somewhat periodic anyway, just because, it could tell you things you weren't expecting to hear. So, maybe that's different per team, but as you were saying, Wyatt, why don't you go ahead? You had something for Perry.
Yeah, so what I was going to add is that there's this one client that we're working with. The team is made up of 20 people, 20 engineers. And so we have 5 to 6 sub teams within that. We're looking at forecasts all the time because the throughput is very dynamic. And it really helps us to understand, maybe we lower our whip for a certain period for this or increase the whip, that sort of thing. So it really, really depends on your situation. I'm a firm believer of more feedback often because that helps us make decisions. And this is a feedback mechanism. It's a feedback tool. It's like, what do we need to do? And sometimes we will say, okay, this team that's working in India, can you guys work with the UK team a little bit to help move this thing through the system? And we get that information through this. So with the Agile tool, all you have to do is really push a button. With the spreadsheet, you've got to enter some data, right? And the data is the throughput. So that's the biggest difference.
If we go back to the sort of hurricane forecast example, the way that they do it is because those simulations are really expensive to run, right? They need to be run on supercomputers, and they're expensive to do. The way they do it is when the hurricane is far out at sea, they run simulations once every 12 hours, I think. And I could be wrong about the numbers, but they run them every 12 hours. And as it gets closer, as it's about a day away from land, they start running them every 6 hours. And as it's about to make landfall, they start running them every 3 hours. So they start running them more frequently when the risk is higher. And this sort of goes along with what Perry was saying, that, as we get closer to the end of the project, our needs change, right? Maybe we need a higher accuracy level, right? We need that 95% confidence. And maybe we need to run these more frequently. Or maybe because we are changing the way that we're working, we're changing our target whip levels. We want that feedback more frequently because we want to see how's this change affecting what might happen in the future. So how often you run it is really dependent on your context, right? What do you need? But more often is often better.